Welcome to my site, everybody. My name is Paul, and as you may have explored my site a little bit, there's a lot of interesting content there. I have been a student of meditation and esoteric studies and mythology and a lot of things over my lifetime, and I started practicing meditation very early, which I've spoken about in some of my other videos. But today I'm going to start a series sharing information and stories and parables, you might say, of satsang that I've heard over the years. And I thought I'd like to help people, and some of them are funny, some of them are interesting, but all have a little message in them. So I'll start with a few today and see if I can carry it through. And if you like and share, I hope you enjoy the content. So right now I'll just get to it. So there was apparently one time a man who was a great sage, and he had been known for just profound feelings around him of peace. Now there's a saying in the ancient tradition about how, I guess it's from the Upanishads, and it says, in the presence of the divine, all enmity ceases. In other words, when you're in the presence of that grace and joy manifested in a physical presence, there's no other feeling you can have except, just you forget about all your anger and everything, and you just get into this state of peace. No, this sage was known for that, and he used to sit in a public area or private, sometimes under a tree, and meditate for deep, deep times, and maybe not even talk for days and days on end. And there's a saying also in the ancient tradition that there is a greatest teaching happens in silence. So anyway, there was another enemy that this sage had, and he was a king from a neighboring area, and he hated this guy. He just absolutely wanted to kill this sage. And he kept threatening and threatening, and the message would go back from the sage, well, he wouldn't even respond. So this evil king decided to go start invading. So he brought his troops closer and closer and closer, and then he would make an encampment, and he would send another message, here I'm coming, I'm going to come and take your kingdom. Just tell that sage that I'm coming and I hate him, and so on. So this would happen, and time went by, and little by little this evil king got closer and closer, and slowly but surely he just noticed that the troops weren't as motivated. They just started relaxing a little more. So as the story progressed, that this king finally got closer and closer, and he decided to go, what's with this sage? He never responds to me. He doesn't do anything. He doesn't want to fight. I keep threatening him. And he came closer and closer, and he just realized, well, what am I doing here? I'm just trying to attack this person who's just sitting here. What kind of a human being am I? And he began to ask for some teaching. So that was the parable, that as this sage just didn't even respond, it was in deep silence and meditation, spreading that elixir of joy all around the neighborhood, so that little by little, even the most of his worst of his enemies would just come and say, realize, why am I hating this person? Not doing anything to me. So that is a little simple parable, but I have another. Some of them are more funny and so on, so I'll try to add another one here. There was once a sage and one of his disciples. They were walking along a river, and this disciple kept saying, oh, my mind it's got me, and all my desires have me, and I'm stuck, and they just have me, and the sage just walked along, kept listening and listening, and finally they walked under a tree, and the sage just jumped up and grabbed onto the tree branch and started saying, help me, this tree has got me, it's got me. And the disciple said, well, just let go. So sage turned to him and said, just let go. They don't have you, you have them. So there was another story I heard that was very interesting. This is the story of a mongoose. In India, the mongoose was actually they kill snakes and so on, and in some ways they're kind of a giant rat, and people don't really like them very much. But the mongoose, this is a fable, the mongoose was at this big spiritual festival, and he was sitting there, and half his fleece was gold. And one of the pilgrims at the festival was saying, well, had a conversation, so how is it that you're here and why are you here at this festival and why is half your fleece gold? So the mongoose started saying, well, sir, I have to tell you this story. I was living near a poor family's home, and I used to sometimes get into their things and eat their food. And one day, a sage came and knocked on their door, and he was coming to this very festival. And he said, well, I need something to eat. And there's a tradition in India that the guest is God. So this humble couple, they're having the last of their little food, and they were elderly, and they didn't know what to do, and they said, okay, well, eat our food here, sir, and stay the night, and be on your way in the morning. Well, in that nighttime, the sage ate, and the couple starved, but there was some food that dropped off the table onto the floor, and I ate it. And when I ate it, half my fleece turned to gold. So I decided to come to this festival because I want to find some more of that food so that the rest of my fleece can be gold. Kind of a silly story, but it has a parable. So I have a lot of other stories. I heard another dream one time. This is a fascinating dream I heard from somebody. She said she was in a dream and she was in this place. There's a huge warehouse of all kinds of amazing things and technology and so on, and gifts and all kinds of things, precious jewels. And there was somebody there, and she was saying, like, what is all these things? What happened? Where all these things come from? And this voice came to her and said, those are the things that are nobody ever asked for, or the things that the gifts that people never received. They're stored up here. So then I had another little dream one time, and this woman, she said she was in a dream, and she was on the edge of a kind of a cliff, and then in this dream there was a voice that just said, okay, just take a step, take one step. And every time she took a step, she finally said, okay, I'll take a step. And immediately, as soon as she took a step, there was something under her feet. And then I'd take another step, and there was something under her feet. So it's just a very, very fascinating parable. I'd love to hear stories that you have and share with me, because it's a very inspiring experience to share these types of stories that have a little lesson in them, maybe some humor and so on. And I'll tell one more that has a little bit of humor in it. And this is the story of the monkey, the king of the monkey and the crows. One day, if you know a little bit about India, or I lived there when I was young, they have this flat bread called a chapati. And there's a lot of monkeys there and crows and so on. And I'm very familiar with that. If you go on YouTube and videos from India, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. But this story was about these two crows were fighting about a chapati. And someone had thrown one out there, and these crows were ripping at it and trying to eat it and take it away. And the monkey, the king of the monkeys, said, like, okay, what are you doing? You're fighting, you're making a huge mess and making a lot of noise and fighting about this chapati. So I'm going to pick this thing up, and I'm going to give one half to you and one half to you. So he tore it in pieces, and he gave one to each crow. And the crow said, well, his half is bigger than my half. And they started arguing again. So the monkey said, okay, I'll take the bigger half and I'll tear pieces off and then give it back. And he said, well, now his half is bigger than my half. So they went on like this for a while. So then the monkey said, okay, I'm going to take the whole chapati and I'm going to eat it myself, and you won't have anything. So either you accept the way it is or don't, or you'll have nothing. So the crow said, okay, well, less than half of something is better than nothing. So I hope you enjoy these little stories. Please like and share, and I might try a little different format, maybe a different background, and maybe some other video and pictures. But I love to hear from people, and I hope I hear some good stories from y'all. Thanks for watching.